Hello, my name is Liza, and I'm going to share with you a recent experience that I had. I just finished a 10-day Vipassana meditation course. I just want to share my personal experience and what it was like, how it went for me, what I learned, what I liked. So, if you don't know, Vipassana meditation is a specific school of meditation or lineage of meditation that started with a teacher, Goenka Ji, who started it in India around 50 years ago, and now it's kind of set up in these centers all over the world. There's about 200 centers worldwide that you can apply to, that you can go to, and sit a 10-day silent meditation retreat or a 10-day course. So I just finished my second course, and in the second course I was actually a server, which means I was volunteering on the course. So once you complete your first 10-day course, you are considered an old student, and you can go back as many times as you want, or you can go back as a server. So I decided to try out being a server, and I was really curious about what it would be like, how it would be different, and I didn't actually, see that much information or know that much about being a server before I went, but it was a really fun, really wonderful experience. It was actually a lot more fun than I expected it to be. So I'm really happy that I chose to be a server this time, and it was definitely kind of like a look behind the scenes, and it definitely kind of clicked to me a little bit more and showed me a little bit more what the organization, what the community of the Vipassana meditators is like. So let me start out with the basics, kind of the logistics, where I went. So both of the courses that I did were at Dhama Dhara, which is the name of the center in Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts. And it's a really beautiful center, really big. They have an amazing pagoda. They have really nice rooms, lots of rooms, and most people get their own private rooms. So that's really nice. I had my own room both times. And at this particular course that I just finished, there were about 120 students and about 20 servers, so about 150 people total in the course. And as a server, I was helping with making all the food, doing all the cleaning, doing everything so that the students could just be there focusing on meditating. So let me run you through the day in a life of a server, what my day was like. I think a lot of my friends and family, or a lot of people, want to know, like, what are you doing all day when you're at a meditation retreat? And when you are a student, you pretty much are meditating the whole time. At Vipassana, it's all about sitting and meditating and doing the practice. So the students are pretty much there meditating. The day starts at 4:30 and goes until 9. So other than eating and maybe taking a walk, you're meditating the whole rest of the day. The servers have a little bit of a different timetable. We were meditating about 3.5 hours a day, and then working the rest of the time, and we also had some rest time or some free time. So as a server this time, my day started usually around 5:30. I would wake up around 5:30. We weren't required to wake up at 4:30, so I definitely skipped the 4:30 wake up. I woke up at 5:30. We would start in the kitchen around 6 a.m. Breakfast started at 6:30, so between 6 and 6:30 we were getting breakfast ready, putting out all the food, things like that. Then we'd have breakfast, then we'd have clean the kitchen, wash dishes. Between 8 and 9 was the first group sitting, so we'd meditate for 1 hour all together in the hall. Then back to the kitchen, more work, making food for lunch. Lunch was 11, so we would serve students and then we would eat lunch. And actually for the students, that's their last meal of the day. They only eat breakfast and lunch, and then after that they're fasting for the rest of the day. But for servers, we could eat later in the day if we wanted to. Then we would do more cleanup in the kitchen. We would have rest between 1 and 2:30 or free time. We could also go on a walk. We could also kind of hang out, socialize with the other servers. We could read as well. I was reading outside most days. It was pretty sunny and nice. And then 2:30 to 3:30, another group sit. Back to the kitchen after that, more work, more food prep, which I personally loved. I really like cooking, being in the kitchen. And then after that, we would eat dinner as a group with the servers. The students would just have tea. And we had a separate dining room for the servers, so we would be kind of doing our own thing apart from the students. Then the last group sitting of the day would be 6 to 7 p.m. That was mandatory for everyone. Then the discourse, 7 to 8:15 or so. So that's kind of like a lecture in the hall, a Dharma lecture, and I would usually go to that. More meditating, surprise, surprise, after that. And then the last meditation of the day would be 9 to 9:30. We'd have a special servers only meditation, which was metta, or loving kindness, which was really nice. And we would send out love and good thoughts, good energy to everyone on the course, and kind of end the day like that, with that kind of hoping that everyone is doing well and getting a good result out of the course. Then we'd have a little meeting, and around 9:30 p.m. we'd be done. I'd go to my room, I would be exhausted, and I'd usually read a little bit and then go to bed at 10:30, something like that. It's actually very, very simple. So the Vipassana technique itself is all about body awareness. It's about being aware of the sensations of the body, sitting and moving the awareness through the whole body, up and down the body, over and over again. It doesn't matter how fast or how slow you go, but just getting really focused, really concentrated on the sensations and witnessing and observing them. And doing this, it's simple, but it does take a lot of focus and sensitivity. So I think that's why being there for 10 days is so helpful and so important, is because the first few days, at least for me, I'm not really that sensitive to sensations. I'm still kind of, thinking about the outside world. I'm still kind of in a faster pace. But once I slow down and get really in the practice, it's very deep, and you can really feel a lot going on internally. And you move your awareness through the whole body, up and down, and sensations will come up, and they can be painful sensations, positive sensations, pleasurable sensations. My legs were falling asleep, my knees were hurting. Everyone has different stuff going on, but the whole practice of Vipassana is to observe the sensations with equanimity. So whatever is coming up, the idea is to just allow it, or not allow it, but just witness it, and not judge it as good or bad, not cling to it, not want to push it away, but just maintain equanimity. And by doing that, you're creating new habits of the mind, where you're not reacting, you're not clinging, you're not pushing things away. So you're creating more equanimity in the reactions of the mind. So I'm not a complete expert on this, but this is my understanding of what we were doing. And then simultaneously, while you're scanning the body, while you're observing the sensations, another thing might be happening at the same time, which is samskaras are coming up to the surface. So from my understanding of samskaras are impressions on the mind, or habits of the mind. So maybe memories are coming up, thought patterns are coming up, fears, hopes, anything, any memories, any kind of like imagination of the future, any visualizations that might be coming up. But similarly to the body sensations, you also want to observe them coming up and not react to them, not kind of play out that scenario, not dwell on that scenario, or like really attach or like love that scenario that's in your mind. Just kind of be like, okay, that's there, and keep being equanimous, keep scanning the body. So that's kind of the art, or the practice of meditation that takes a long time and a lot of practice to do, but that's what I was kind of chipping away at. And for me, the experience of the samskaras coming up are definitely a lot of memories, a lot of things from the past, or a lot of belief systems, thought patterns that are always kind of there, but maybe we don't have the awareness or the time to be conscious of them happening. So that's kind of what's framing our reality all the time. And I think it was powerful and helpful for me to be able to have the time to slow down, to be aware enough to be like, oh, that's what my mind is creating up until this point. And the change happens when we can see it and not keep perpetuating it in the same way. Another kind of teaching or foundation of Vipassana is that everything is changing all the time. Our body, our sensation is changing in every moment. So when you're having something negative come up, that will change. When you're having something positive come up, that will change as well. And keeping your mind equanimous in both of those scenarios. It really made sense to me that this sort of practice is done kind of in a contained environment. When we're out, in the world, in our normal life, there's so much going on. We have responsibilities. Most of us are busy. There's our phone, the internet, distractions. But to be able to take 10 days completely out, aside from all of that, it really helps you progress in your practice, in your focus, in your relationship to yourself and to your spirituality, whatever you're deepening. So it really makes sense that it kind of separates you out from normal everyday life. I think for a lot of people that might be a really difficult experience to have all of the distractions and entertainments taken away and you're just there by yourself. So we were reminded all the time to have a lot of sympathy and compassion for all the students who might be having a really hard time in the course with that element of it. But then kind of on the other opposite side of the spectrum, it might be kind of a relief to some people to, not be in the world. And I think that I had that experience personally, and a few of the other servers that I met seemed more on that side of the spectrum as well, where it almost feels like an escape from the world or from responsibilities. And some people do end up, becoming like Vipassana addicts or regulars, or some people even stay for like a long time or a year at some of these centers. So I think there's really opposite sides to the spectrum of that, but I guess even though I feel the desire to, stay in this kind of environment longer and maybe escape into it, something that I'm reminding myself as I'm coming out of my experience is to also be equanimous towards that, of like, oh, equanimous towards being there at the center or being here out of the center, and both are experiences that I can have. Both are things that I can witness and observe without clinging, without pushing them away. So that's something that I'm working on as I reintegrate out here. One more takeaway or learning that I'll share is something that I scribbled down in my journal the last day, or the second to last day I was there, was that I wrote, time is the special ingredient. So I was experiencing over the 10 days that each day my meditation was getting better, and I was getting more focused and, more deep or concentrated on what I was doing. So I really saw clearly how the amount of time there was helping me in my practice. It was helping me to be more equanimous. It was helping me to sit more easily and sit without as much pain, without as much agitation of the mind or the body. So I was noticing time is the secret ingredient, and maybe we've all heard that in some way or another before, and I think we've all experienced it. Like in any sort of practice that you do, it takes a lot of time to get good at something. So same with meditation, it takes a lot of time to get good at something. So in Vipassana specifically, they tell you or encourage you to only practice Vipassana, to not do any other sort of meditation, any other sort of practice. So that makes sense to me, that it takes time and repetition to get good at anything. and also pertains to this. And it just made me reflective on my own life and my own practice, because I've been doing yoga for a long time, almost a decade. I also started meditating with a Buddhist center in New York a few years ago. And I'm kind of the type of practitioner that likes to dabble, that likes to learn about new practices, new meditations. I'm so curious, like, oh, what are those Buddhists over there doing? What is this religion doing? Because it all kind of makes sense to me. It all seems like a really good idea to me. And I kind of have this more openness, this more broad understanding that all of these different practices eventually are kind of leading to the same point. Everyone's kind of looking for the same end goal, the same final destination: enlightenment, freedom, healing, whatever you want to call it. But I was sitting with that kind of realization that time is the secret ingredient. And yeah, I don't know if I made any decisions or not of like, oh, I'm just going to stick to one practice for the rest of my life, because I'm not making any promises like that. But I met one woman who was really, really awesome, and she has been pretty much doing Vipassana courses almost as a full-time gig for the past like 4 years. So she was really deep into it, and she told me this analogy of like, you can dig hole after hole. You can go dig a hole in one place, a few shovels full, then walk to the next place, dig a few holes, dig a few shovels into that hole, get a little deep, go to the next hole, keep digging a little bit more. But if you keep doing that, you're never going to get to the water underneath. So that was kind of her advice that she gave me. It was definitely unsolicited advice, so I'm not going to, take it without considering it on my own. But that's something that came up for me, was that all of the different practices that are out there, whatever you're working on, whatever, maybe you already have a meditation practice, maybe you're doing some other kind of practice, whatever it is, if it's working for you, keep doing it. If you're curious about another one, I'm always curious, so you can try it as well. But just know that it's not going to get you to, like the end result like immediately. Everything takes time and everything takes practice. And I think for me, and for my hope for other people, is that you're just able to find the thing that works for you and keep working on it. That's my intention for myself as I keep going on my path. I wasn't expecting to really love it so much this second course, but it really was so fun to be serving, such a fun environment, such a actually really supportive and safe and comfortable environment as well. So I'm about to travel to India, so now that I had such a good experience, I'm probably going to integrate that into my trip and maybe do a few courses when I'm in India and see how that goes, see if I want to stick with it. So that's all I have for now. Thanks for listening. Hope that you got something out of it, and thank you. Until next time.